Okay, there's a lot going on in this world. Besides the NCAA losing out in a Supreme Court ruling, a 9-0 to allow athletes to probably eventually get paid. That's pretty interesting. But the stories I want to focus on revolve around energy and still evolve around energy. There's a lot going on in this space, especially since the G7. So I'm going to start off with a URL that just gives you some background information from Reuters. They do a nice job on these things, these backgrounders. And it's on the border tax, the carbon border tax that the EU has been working on. It's a nice background on it. There's several other articles that I've got here, one from the Wall Street Journal talking about this carbon border tax. And then I've got one from Environmental and Energy News, and then also one that is the, believe it or not, it's a draft of the tax that the EU has put together. So this is something that is a front in mind of a lot of power producers here in the United States, believe it or not, but certainly within Europe, and it's certainly front in mind for a lot of those that are in the steel, cement, and aluminum industries, because those industries use a lot of power, and they create a lot of carbon. And this tax, basically what it says is that if a product is coming in from a country that doesn't have environmentally carbon policies or policies to reduce their carbon footprint, then I guess you can tax them. And I guess the question is like, at what price? Like, what price do we put on carbon? And what's allowable and what's not, and as compared to what the current country in Europe's rules are. And that's where you get this border tax, where if you're importing some product from another country, let's say China, they can tax that if they really just don't follow the same rules that they do in, say, Germany, right? And so that's the concept here, is for the EU to let people know that you can't, as a manufacturer within the EU, you can't outsource the creation of that product, then import it back, outsource it to a country that doesn't have as strict rules on the environment or on carbon, without getting dinged when you bring that manufactured piece back into the country. I know it's a little complicated. I'm doing a horrible job explaining this right now, but it's kind of a mess, and it is a little bit of like whack-a-mole, because all you're trying to do is you're trying to figure out where everybody's sending stuff. Is it meeting the same guidelines as you are? If not, can you tax it? Or are these companies really sophisticated and they send it to China, and then they send it to Vietnam, and they send it to like someplace in Bermuda, which doesn't have any problems with reducing carbon. So it's pretty tricky. So just keep that in mind as you're going through this. That's the problem with regulations. A lot of times, if just one country acts alone, you really have to think about what are the secondary and tertiary effects of which this is going to play out. So keep that in mind. With that, just two other stories. One is that Maine is going to be the first state that is going to order public fossil fuel divestment. This is from their investment accounts. This is akin to what California is doing with, I think CalPERS is engaged in that. And then the next story is of just follow up with the Chicago Tribune. There's 2 coal-fired plants that are shutting down in Illinois because they can't be profitable. They can't compete. Those particular plants can't compete with wind and solar at this point, so they're shutting them down. But this follows on the heels of Pritzker, basically saying they want to shut down all of the coal-fired plants in Illinois. So this is a first step in that direction. It's going to be challenging for anybody who's running a coal-fired plant going forward, unless they are, heavily subsidized with carbon capture. That was kind of the point of the G7. They didn't really come out and say, we're totally against financing all coal-fired plants, just the ones that don't have carbon capture or the capability of reducing the emissions significantly. Okay, that's enough for me. It's a Monday. I'm babbling my way through this. It's been a long weekend, and I'm sure a lot of you are getting out next week for 4th of July. And again, just a quick shout out to all the dads out there. Hey, you're doing a great job. Keep it up, and happy belated Father's Day.